it going? Oh, I'm looking for the camera. Actually, I'm recording with my phone, and the camera is so tiny that I just don't know where to look at. Okay, but so if it feels a bit weird, please be aware that I'm speaking to you guys. Okay, sometimes I'll be looking to there. So yeah. So this is Leonardo Pasquali. I am the founder of the Brazilian tech group Pasquali Solution and also the American tech company Titan Clarity. Okay, I am recording this video because I really want to explain for some people, especially American and Europeans, about a subject that you are probably not aware, at least most of the people. Well, and the subject is Brazil has a lot of software engineers. You don't have a clue. And look, I'm not trying to be disrespectful here. I think this is our problem. I mean, the Brazilians, we never advertise that. So people are not showing this to the world, but we are probably only behind India and US itself. I mean, in terms of how many software engineers we have right now. I know that we are pretty famous about our soccer, which is football, right? About our soccer, about our samba, about our caipirinha, and about a lot of other stuff. But, we have a pretty huge technology scene, and we have a lot of developers back in Brazil. And I'm going to tell you why we have a lot of developers, and then you're going to understand, okay, now it makes sense. Leo is not crazy. So, well, and I know that probably a lot of guys didn't notice that I'm not American, that I am Brazilian. I know I have a perfect accent, right? No, this is not true, unfortunately. So yes, I am Brazilian, and I've been a software engineer I'm still a software engineer. I really like this hands-on thing, so I keep coding until this moment, and I will code forever. A lot of algorithms for our company and for some of our clients, I wrote it myself. So I'm a nerd, right? So I'll never stop being a nerd. And I like that. So that's great. Okay, so let me go back maybe 30 or 40 years ago, and then I'm going to tell how it began and why we have so many software engineers and developers right now. So you probably don't know, because obviously there are some minor things that we never know about the other countries, right? So that's fine. But you probably don't know, but during the 80s, Brazil reached a record height of inflation. And dude, I'm not talking about this 10% year inflation like we're having right now in America in 2022, something like that, maybe less than that. I'm talking about 1,000% per year of inflation. Can you imagine that? So yes, we had that in Brazil. We had that for almost a decade. Obviously, there were some 5 years that were really bad, but on average, we were having during the 8s and the beginning of the 90s, probably around that. So can you imagine that? Okay, now you have that information. Okay, now another piece of information. Brazil is huge, almost the same size as America, right? At that time, we probably have 150 million people. Now we have 215 million. So it is a continental country, right? Just really similar to the US. So can you imagine that with this high inflation, this monster, this absurd, and a huge country like that, lots of people? What would happen to the banks if they never had really reliable systems? Mainframes, databases. They would bankrupt, right? They need to have real control about everything, because prices were changing. I mean, sometimes 3 times in the day. I remember when I was a kid that we were inside of a supermarket. just like Walmart, Target, and everything. And people were relabeling the products for new prices during the day. And I mean, twice a day, three times a day. Can you imagine that? So this is how it worked in Brazil. So the banks really needed to keep track of everything. So they started to build a lot of reliable system. And with that came a lot of engineers, a lot of COBOL engineers, mainframe, complex databases, and everything. Dude, you can imagine how the Brazilian banks are, even nowadays. They are really high tech. And well, to be honest, there are a bunch of good stuff, especially regarding technology in Brazil. We have some other problems, but definitely technology is not one of them. And to be honest with you, for some time, especially from the year 2000 until 2010, I was traveling a lot. I've been to Europe a lot. I've been to the US. And it was pretty clear to me that Europe, UK, and America was behind Brazil in some stuff, in some tech stuff. Obviously, when Steve Jobs came with his little iPhone, everything changed. And from that point on, I'm totally sure that right now America is a bit ahead of Brazil, but I don't think that Europe is. Not at all. I remember I've been to the UK in 2008 because I used to have a manager, and he is South African, and he saw myself. I was using Oracle store procedures to build crystal reports, which for us in Brazil was something really, easy and usual. Well, we're always doing that. And when he saw that, he asked me, "You're really doing it? How do you do that?" And I said, "Look, you use this." I showed the whole process for him, and he said, "Look, if you can really do that, you're coming to the UK with me because I have a huge client back there." Actually, I can say it was like 14 years ago, okay? It was the RBS, the Royal Bank of Scotland. Now, we have a huge client there, and I used to work for De La Rue, the company that works with, they create passports, they create, they manage a lot of stuff regarding the transportation of money, those trucks that transport money and everything, and they have the systems and they have the machines that count and select money if they are fit to come back to the street, of their unfit. Well, they work with all of this, and they were developing some stuff for RBS. Well, they needed these reports, and then this manager, he saw that I was capable of doing that, and I've been to the UK after that, like for 4 times. I stood there like for 6 months, if you summarize all of the times that I've been there, just to develop this system. And we were successful, and well, it was really nice. Just for you to understand how we were ahead of some stuff. And for us, it was kind of trivial, Well, that's the usual stuff. Well, so just for you to understand, that's the first part, okay? So because of the inflation, okay, I'm coming back to the late 80s, the starting of the 90s, not talking about myself. And then one of the reasons that we developed a lot of people to work with tech, especially software engineering, was the banks, our whole financial system. The size of Brazil, right, compared to most countries in the world, our population and everything. So that's why we had to do that. That's why we have to develop a bunch of people to work with tech, to work with IT. Can you imagine the infrastructure? And now I'm not talking about systems, but can you imagine the infrastructure inside the country to have all of these banks connected? in a continental country in the 80s and in the 90s, it was not easy task. But we did it, right? So yes, this is the first part. And my father used to work with computers too. He worked more with the hardware part, but he was always telling me during that time, look, you need to work with software. Work with software because there are a lot of good things, great things going on in this country right now. So if you ever work with technology, work with software, this is going to be great. And I did. Actually, my plan was to work with marketing and advertisement, but then I've been always a nerd. Then I started to work as a software engineer in the late 90s. In the end of the millennium, I was starting to work with software development. So this is the first part. This is where we developed a lot of people to work with tech and software engineer. I mean, COBOL, Visan, mainframe IBMs, and everything. Okay, so, and then it comes the internet in the early 2000s, right? In the end, actually, the end of the 90s. And then the banks had this great idea, which was great, right? To create the internet banking. So people could access their bank account through the internet, through the web browsers. So, but this was Brazil. The people are never tired of creating bad stuff to do harm to people, to steal from people. So at that moment, we had our second wave to develop good people to prevent stealing of money. So at that moment, we had to create a lot of stuff in terms of cybersecurity, Java applets, so we could have reliable internet banking. You know, I am in America right now, and it's great because when I use the bank account, I have a bank account in Chase. It feels like I am in, I don't know, 2006 again, because it's exactly how it was. Right now, we cannot have web browsers running internet banking because people are going to steal, unfortunately. That is Brazil. Brazil has this part too. But what I'm presenting here is our capability to develop reliable software and really complex software because of our financial area, our financial market in Brazil. And right now we have what we call the fintechs, the financial startups, which is great. Brazil is opening, and we have a lot of people working for this area. But obviously, can you imagine that as our financial system and ecosystem has grown so much, we obviously develop by consequence a lot of other areas, our industry, everything related to apps and everything. So we have right now 500,000 software developers. Software developers. I'm not talking about cybersecurity, infrastructure, networking. I'm talking about software engineer. Can you imagine that? We have 500,000 people developing mobile, web apps, desktop apps, a lot of software, automation software for industry, a lot of ERP systems. Obviously, in Brazil, we also use SAP. We use Oracle, EBS, and the other solutions that they have, which is a bunch. But we also have our main ERP, which is called Pro Tools, developed by the company TOTUS, which right now is a company that is a multinational, although it is a Brazilian company. We have the Global One Tires by AP Data, which is a huge ERP and BPO software thing. So Brazil is really. I know that you guys never. Probably, obviously, some of you guys already know that, but I'm totally sure that some of you never knew that. So that's correct, guys. Brazil can develop software. We have a lot of software engineers. So if you're thinking about save some money and still have a great quality software, I mean, mobile app with React Native, Flutter, MongoDB, MVC, .NET, C Sharp, Java, everything regarding the native languages. I mean, Objective-C and Swift for iOS. Well, we have everything. Okay, we work with everything. You can imagine that. If you need, you can. There are a bunch of companies that work for the US, for Europe right now. I also have a company like that. So if you prefer, you can call us and or send an email or, for Titan Clarity. You can find us at titanclarity.com. And that's it, guys. I'm sorry about my language. Sometimes I'm not really formal, but I'm just trying to tell a story here so you guys know where Brazil is in this chess game of technology. Okay, so that's it. Thank you so much. See you guys in next time. Bye.